Your performance review is a legal document, not a development tool, not a feedback mechanism, not an investment in your growth. A legal document written with the company's interest in mind, designed to create a paper trail that protects the company in the event of a dispute, and structured to produce the appearance of objectivity while running almost entirely on subjective judgment. Once you understand what the document actually is, who it's for, what it's designed to do, and what mechanisms determine your score, you stop being at its mercy, and you start operating inside it in a way that actually serves you. The official story goes like this. Performance reviews exist to develop talent, to give employees honest feedback about where they stand, to identify the people who are ready to grow and the ones who need support, and to create a fair, merit-based process where your contributions are recognized. That's the brochure. That's the onboarding presentation. Here's what the research says. Performance reviews are supposed to reward merit. In practice, according to research from Harvard Kennedy School, they often rely on subjective judgments that can be swayed, consciously or not, by an employee's demographic characteristics. Organizational politics play a critical role in shaping performance appraisals, where favoritism and internal alliances can lead to biased evaluations that reflect political maneuvering rather than actual performance. Political maneuvering. Not your output, not your results, not what you actually did. The system that was designed to be the most objective measure of your professional value is in the real world, one of the most political processes inside any organization. And the reason it was built this way is not accidental. To understand the real function of performance reviews, you need to ask one question. Who does this process actually serve? The primary beneficiary of any performance review system is the company, specifically its legal and HR functions. Performance reviews serve as documentation that protects employers in cases of wrongful termination, discrimination claims, or allegations of unfair treatment. They provide a record that can be presented in court as evidence that employment decisions were made on merit, not on protected characteristics like age, gender, race, or disability. Think about what that means in practice. When a company decides it wants to let someone go, for whatever reason, stated or unstated, it needs a paper trail. A clean paper trail that says, this person underperformed. We documented it, we gave them feedback. The decision was based on objective criteria. Without that trail, the company has legal exposure. With it, the same decision becomes defensible. The performance review is the construction of that trail. And here's the thing most employees never consider. That trail is being built about you by someone whose interests are not the same as yours. There is a second function of the annual review that gets discussed even less. The annual review cycle creates a specific psychological condition in the workforce. When everything that matters, your raise, your title, your continued employment, your future opportunity, all of it flows through a single process that happens once a year on a schedule someone else controls, evaluated by someone with more organizational power than you, using criteria you didn't write. You become structurally dependent on that process going well. And structural dependency is one of the most effective management mechanisms that exists. It doesn't require surveillance. It doesn't require threats. It just requires that you understand that your professional life runs through this moment, and that the person controlling this moment has enormous discretionary power over your future. People in that condition work harder. They accept more. They push back less. They absorb unreasonable requests because the cost of friction feels too high in a year that ends with this moment. That's not paranoia. That's organizational design. Now let's get into the mechanics, because understanding that the system is biased is not the same as understanding how the bias operates. There are 4 specific mechanisms embedded in the standard performance review process that determine your score in ways that have very little to do with your actual performance. The first is the halo effect. Your manager has formed an impression of you, positive or negative, based on their relationship with you, the moments visible to them, and factors that may have nothing to do with the quality of your work. That overall impression then becomes a lens through which every dimension of your evaluation is filtered. Your project management, your communication style, your cultural fit, your growth potential, all of it scored not from an independent assessment, but from the top-down application of that one impression. The categories on the form create the illusion of objectivity. The halo creates the actual score. The second mechanism is affinity bias. the documented tendency to evaluate people more favorably when they are similar to yourself. In background, in style, in the way they communicate, in how they carry themselves in a room. Employees most similar to their manager consistently receive higher ratings than employees who are different, even when the objective performance is equivalent or superior. The form looks the same for everyone. The person filling it out is not. The third mechanism is the anchoring effect. And this one is particularly important because it involves a feature explicitly designed to give you a voice. Many companies ask employees to complete a self-evaluation before the manager completes their assessment. The stated reason: you deserve to advocate for yourself. What the research shows: when a manager sees the score an employee gave themselves, that score becomes an anchor, a reference point that influences the manager's final assessment, even when it shouldn't. If you were raised in an environment where self-promotion feels uncomfortable, where claiming your own accomplishments feels presumptuous, you will underrate yourself on that form, and your instinct toward modesty will have directly suppressed your score. The voice they gave you in the process becomes the mechanism through which your own psychological patterns are used against you. The fourth mechanism is recency bias. Performance reviews are supposed to reflect an entire year, but human memory doesn't compress time evenly. Recent events are more vivid, more emotionally weighted, more available to the mind than events that happened 9 months ago. What happened in Q4 will have a disproportionate influence on the score that's supposed to represent the full year. And here is the darker application. A manager who has decided they want to build a case against a specific employee doesn't need to fabricate anything. They simply need to wait for a difficult quarter, wait for a project that didn't go perfectly, wait for a moment where the recency bias will do the work for them. The review didn't cause the decision was made first. The review was the instrument used to document it. Understanding how the system works doesn't require accepting it as unchangeable. It requires learning to operate inside it strategically. 3 specific moves that shift the dynamic in your favor. The first move: document your own performance before anyone else does. The recency bias and the halo effect are most powerful when there is no independent record of what you actually produced. Keep a private archive on your personal device of what you delivered, when you delivered it, and what the measurable impact was, not a general sense of what kind of year it was. Specific deliverables, specific dates, specific metrics, specific feedback from stakeholders. Quarterly update emails to your manager serve the same function, with the additional advantage of creating a contemporaneous written record that's timestamped and already in their inbox. The second move is write your self-evaluation last, not first, and write it as a legal brief, not a reflection. A legal brief makes the strongest possible case for a specific position using evidence that is specific, documented, and verifiable. Your self-evaluation should do the same. Not, I think I had a strong year, but a specific account of what you produced, the challenges you navigated, the impact you generated, and the ways your contributions exceeded the scope of your role. Because if the anchoring effect is real, and the evidence says it is, your self-evaluation sets the floor of your final rating. Make the floor as high as the evidence supports. And the third move, but not less important, is request specificity on every negative rating. If your review contains a low score on any dimension, you have the right and the strategic interest to ask for specific examples. Not, my communication needs improvement as a category. Which communication? Which conversation? Which specific outcome suggested a problem? When you ask for specifics, one of 2 things happens. Either your manager can provide them, in which case you've learned something real and addressable, or they can't. And a low rating without specific supporting evidence is extraordinarily difficult to defend, legally or organizationally. Precision is the counter to vagueness, and vagueness is almost always what the system runs on. Performance reviews are not neutral. They were never designed to be. They are legal documents that protect the company. They run on cognitive mechanisms that favor those with power, and they create the structural dependency that makes compliance easier than resistance. But knowing how the machine works changes how you operate inside it. You stop walking into that annual conversation hoping the process will reward your work. You start building the record that makes it very difficult for the process to misrepresent it. The next video takes this one level deeper, the physical space you work in, and what it was actually designed to produce. Subscribe to see it.